Hey everybody, it's Matt Mayoko checking in from 49ers headquarters on Friday. So usually on Friday, that's when the injury report comes out with the designations out, doubtful, questionable. But because the 49ers have a Monday night game, that will be done on Saturday. But just to kind of bring you up to date on the injury situation for the 49ers, and it is not good for this team because you go out there to practice and you look out there and there's only two of the team's starting offensive linemen who are out there on the field practicing. And so Colton McKivitz was the latest addition to the 49ers injury report. He did not practice at all on Friday due to a knee injury. And so he was limited the day before on Thursday, no practice at all on Friday. Aaron Banks did not practice. He won't play. Spencer Burford did not practice again. That's with a calf injury. His availability appears to be up in the air for this game. Um, who else? McKivitz with the knee. Uh, Robert Beal, uh, reserve defensive end, did not practice again with the ankle injury. Dre Greenlaw, of course, did not practice. He won't play in these games. Kyle Juszczyk did not practice due to an illness. And then the limited guys, Jair Brown, Leonard Floyd, Isaac Gorindo, those guys should be able to play in this game. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the offensive line, but kind of the headliner for today is George Kittle. I want to talk about him. But first, just want to remind you that this video is brought to you, by the way, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do that because I will keep you up to date on what's happening at Canyon Club Brewery. It's located in Moraga. They have a wide variety, different styles of beers, great outdoor space with the fire pits. They have the TVs outside. So you can, if you're there with the family, you can keep an eye on the game while also conversing with your family. So you could be a good parent as well as stay up to date on all the latest happenings around whatever the NFL or college basketball or college football or MLB or whatever the case may be. So Canyon Club Brewery in Moraga, good place, good menu, and it's coming soon to the Livery in Danville. Okay, so I talked a little bit about the offensive line. Let's hit that again before we get into George Kittle talk, because right now, the 49ers offensive line is in quite a sorry state. And it's going to be something where I really do think that the 49ers are going to have to kind of adjust their game plan a little bit or do some different things. George Kittle gave us kind of a foreshadowing of Monday's game by saying that they have some stuff in that game plan that they haven't unveiled in a while. Of course, don't know exactly what that means because we don't know what's in the 49ers game plan. And so I don't know if that, that's no real big help, I think, to the Detroit Lions because I'm sure they've been, they studied them obviously going into the NFC Championship game last year. So these teams are familiar with each other, although quite clearly both of these teams have changed a lot since that matchup in the NFC Championship game. But as of right now, this is potentially the 49ers starting lineup along the offensive line. It very well could be left tackle Charlie Heck, 21 career starts with the Houston Texans, but just arrived in Santa Clara this week. At left guard, Nick Zakelj. He was a draft pick, was at a sixth-round draft pick in 2022. Would be making his first NFL start. I think that's a given. Nick Zakelj will certainly be starting. And by the way, with Charlie Heck, that means that obviously no Trent Williams, no Jalen Moore, and then Burford is very iffy for this game with the calf injury. Okay, the centers will be Jake Brendel. He's good to go. Right guard will be Dominic Pooney. He's good to go. But then with Colton McKivitz limited or out, I should say, for practice on Friday, the next guy up would probably be Austin Pleasance at right tackle, a guy that the 49ers just added a week ago. They brought him into the practice squad, bumped him up to the 53-man roster the day before the Dolphins game, and then he suited up for that game. Okay, so I did ask George Kittle, by the way, about with only two fifths of the 49ers offensive line out there at practice on Friday. Does he view himself as the sixth offensive lineman? And he kind of laughed and he said that he always considers himself the sixth offensive lineman. Um, Obviously, Kittle's blocking, his run blocking, even pass protection, it doesn't get the kind of credit it deserves because he has been so prolific as a pass catcher. And he said that, um, this is his eighth season in the NFL. So he loves playing for the 49ers. And his goal is that he wants to be number two on the franchise's all time list for receptions and receiving yards. He's not catching Jerry Rice for receptions. We know that. He's not catching him for receiving yards. And he's not catching Rice or Owens for receiving touchdowns. But where Kittle ranks now, third in both categories, and with another solid season next year, he could surpass Terrell Owens. Right now, Kittle has 528 receptions in his career for 7,241 yards. He's only 33 yards shy of the 1,000-yard mark, which would be his fourth time reaching 1,000 yards. And only four other tight ends in NFL history have done that. And that's Travis Kelce. He's done it 7 times. And then Kittle can match Tony Gonzalez, Rob Gronkowski, and Jason Witten for 4 apiece. Okay, here's the thing with Kittle is that he is entering, remember back in 2020, he signed the big money deal. I think it's 5 years, $75 million extension. And he is coming up at the end of that contract. So next year is the final year that he's under contract to the 49ers, and he's scheduled to make $15 million in both salary and bonuses. And so one of my colleagues, Nick Wagoner at ESPN, asked the question about Kittle. Is that something you'd like to have addressed in the offseason? 49ers have had contract situations, of course, every year really since Kittle. Kittle was the first one, I think, in 2020. It was Kittle, it was Warner, it was Debo, it was Bosa, it was Ayuk. So it could be Kittle again. Um, the question the 49ers have to ask themselves, and this was the old Bill Walsh thing. Bill Walsh would always say, you get rid of a player a year too early rather than a year too late. But the way Kittle's playing, if something, I think Kittle has several years left in him. Yes, he'll be 32 when next season begins, but he's just been a productive guy, and he's been basically, of the 49ers star players, he's been the only really productive guy this season. He was asked, as I said, Wagoner asked him about having his contract situation addressed, and Kittle kind of got coy a little bit and said, you can ask me that in the offseason. But he also did note very much that he wants to be with the 49ers. He says, I love it where I'm at. It's a great place. But how much are they going to push? How much will Kittle's representation, Jack Beck, to push to get a contract extension done? How much are the 49ers willing to do that? And those are the kind of questions you have to ask, that the 49ers will have to ask and the 49ers will have to answer. Now, with Kittle scheduled to make $15 million in salary and bonuses, by signing him to a multi-year contract extension, you can give him more guaranteed money. You can lock him in for another couple years at least. And you can also lower his cap figure for next year. Of course, all that stuff would be pushed back a little bit. But when you take into account that the 49ers will be signing Brock Purdy to a lucrative contract extension this offseason, they have other contract issues that they'll have to deal with, most notably Dre Greenlaw, maybe Talanoa Hufanga, and still want some room to fill some pieces in free agency. So it's just an interesting situation with Kittle, because now, that group in the early days of Shanahan and Lynch, those draft picks they brought in who have been superstars, now they're getting to the point where those guys in those early days, there will be a natural evolution of this organization where those guys are leaving. I've seen some people suggest, some of the viewers here have suggested that maybe it's time to move on from Deebo Samuel and George Kittle this offseason. I don't think it is, because I think when you got those kinds of players, and Deebo, I'm still kind of on the fence with that one, but there's a part of me that says that the 49ers are better with Deebo Samuel playing the way he looked against the Miami Dolphins than they are without Deebo Samuel. So I'm on the fence with that one, but I think that 49ers would bring Samuel back. With Kittle, I don't think there's any question, just because of the mindset that he plays with, the captain, the captaincy, is that right? What he means, the positive nature, how he's been a rock there for Brock Purdy. I just think that Kittle's one of those guys that you keep around and you make it work. And um, it becomes a little bit tricky, but that's where the 49ers are in the kind of the track of their organization right now, and that you have to start looking ahead. Heck, they last year they asked Eric Armstead to take a pay cut. He said, no, I can make more money on the open market. That's below market value that they offered him. He went to the Jaguars, and that worked out for him. Kyle Juszczyk, same sort of thing. He had to kind of swallow his pride, and he came back, still the highest paid fullback in the NFL, but certainly Juszczyk's situation is kind of up in the air going into next season as well. So um, it'll be interesting to see, first off, if Kittle does say, Kittle said, ask me that question in the offseason. I kind of think that he will dance around that. I don't know that he will fully answer that question, but I think it is, to me, it's obvious that he would want to get a new contract going into the 2025 season, just to have his short-term future, 2025, 2026 and beyond kind of locked in. And so that, he doesn't hit the open market in free agency of 2025. So want to know what you have to say about that, about George Kittle, um, how the 49ers should be open to signing him to a contract extension, how much Kittle should push for that, how much his agent should push for that, because you look back on this last season, all the drama, all the stuff that's happened. It really started in the offseason with Trent Williams holding out, with Brandon Ayuk holding in. Obviously, those situations didn't work out very well for the 49ers here on the short term, but those players should be back next season. Question is, I would assume Kittle will be back, but what will that contract look like if they do something with it, or if they decide not to do anything with it? What does that mean? So one situation, 49ers contractually, we haven't talked a whole lot about, but obviously something to keep an eye on for the 49ers after the final game of the year, what happens this offseason. Thanks so much for watching, and that is it for now.